Hello and welcome to the Feral Future Podcast. I'm Eric.
Hi, I'm Keri Joy.
Today we are on episode 4 of the podcast officially. We recorded a few since the last time we posted one, but we have some special stuff in mind for them. So today we wanted to talk about archetypes. Archetypes, the concept of character traits or stories that sort of survive throughout the ages, that keep being told over and over and over again, seem to be sort of like the constructs that our lives are built upon, and the ways in which um, our souls are potentially here to fulfill destinies. Um, is it a way to move through karma? Is it a way to exit the reincarnation loop to reach a higher realm of existence? That's what we're going to talk about.
God, you're so juicy. I love it.
But before we get into that,
Yes.
I believe you have something to talk about, something new coming out, special that you're just releasing.
Yes.
About the same time this podcast is going to be going live.
That is true.
So why don't you take a minute to tell us about what you got going on?
So I'm launching something very exciting. I'm calling it an invitation. And it's basically an invitation into your own body. I realized as a woman in my 40s how little I've known about my own body, as much as I've been trying to heal and fix and force and manage and basically control my healing, my evolution. I was looking outwards for support, looking for someone to help me and to fix me. And what I've realized is one, this is all created by design. When we came into this world right off the bat, we are completely disconnected from the seasons, the cycles. Eric and I talk about originally there was 13 moons in a calendar year, 13 moon cycles. And now the fact that we have 12 moon cycles with different numbers of lengths for each month, right off the bat, we are disconnected and out of alignment. So if it was the way it should have been set up, and it was originally, it's 13 months, 28 days, which correlates to a woman's moon cycle, her own moon cycle, her own internal clock and rhythm. And so that leads to disconnection, just because every single day of a woman's 28-day cycle, she is feeling different things. She has different energy levels. She has different dietary needs, different ways she needs to take care of herself and nourish herself. And from the beginning, we have been told that we work like men. And when you have women who are really sensitive, which most of us here are, and you want to do what you're told and become independent and do the thing and take care of yourself, you start working more in a masculine way, which is by trying to fix and control and manage and do the same things that men do. And men have a very different cycle. Pretty much you have your energy is sustained every single day of the month. You have a specific way that you operate, the way things that you like. Of course, there's needs and desires and things, but it's very different than how women are supposed to be in the world. And when from the beginning of time, women worked with the moon and worked with the seasons and worked in rhythm and worked with water, just because we're made of water. And so this is just really a reclamation back into our own body, using the moon cycles to support us. And it's not a everything's going to be completely perfect. This is something that we will do for the rest of our lives. It's a practice I practice every morning, and I've been trying to get into my body for a good part of the past 5, 6, 7 years. I'm committed to it, but it's challenging, just because we have been living neck up for so much of our existence. And so there's no perfect way to do it. It starts on this Cancer new moon, which is very special and sacred. Cancer is the mother archetype. It's the most intuitive archetype. It's the yin. It's and it's connected to, it's the mother of the moon. It's the archetype of, it's the mother archetype,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll be exploring more. So it's very special, but you can begin at any time. And you will just learn simple practices to just reconnect with yourself. And again, this is something you'll have forever, so you can continue to start it at any new moon. This is just a great time. New moons are all about new beginnings, and just to breathe and lay on the grass and put your hand on your heart and your hand on your belly. And I will be sharing wisdom from women from the beginning of, oh, well, not the beginning of time, but from the beginning of things being recorded, at
Mm.
least. There's Ayurvedic wisdom, there's Chinese medicine, there's women like Susan Weed, who I just revere, as she's been super important to me as inspirational for me as in the plants, and really bringing in different plants as allies to support. So I also created a woman's tea tonic, a formula that could also be used in conjunction with the course. And the thing I wanted to share most importantly is that this is the opposite of doing. This is more about being in your body, reconnecting to you, being supported by other incredible women. I will be there the whole time, and we will get to know how our bodies actually really work, and we will be supported and held by the Great Mother Earth and the Great Mother Moon. And I'm really excited about it. It's something that's been coming for a while. Erik was actually an inspiration, a catalyst, I would say, through archetypal work. And my own mother was a huge catalyst, as well as my sister. So thank you for asking me. I wasn't planning on talking
Yeah.
about it, but it does kind of correlate, because all of these different archetypes in our lives really do support our evolutionary growth. And just, I do feel really lucky and blessed, because even putting something out, a new creation, is because of the work that you and I do as partners and lovers. And and through our relating, you have helped me see parts of myself that have been really dark or hidden, or in places that I didn't know or didn't want to see. And so when through our relating, you've helped me unleash kind of this, like, some energy blockages. And with that new release of energy, I had the ability to create something. And
Mm-hmm.
so for somebody who's been in the health and wellness and natural beauty space for so long, and have revered so many other teachers, and again looked outside of myself for support, all of that's been great. It's been part of my journey. But this is really a homecoming into your own body, and that you are your own healer. And I am just there as a supportive guide and friend and older sister. And I hope that every woman who takes part in this, if they do have a daughter or a niece or someone in their life, please share this with them as early as they can possibly read. If I had this information when I, first bled at 12 years old, my whole life would be completely different. So I'm really honored and grateful to be passing down some of this from lineages. And it's really simple, but it's really beautiful. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, and just to wrap it all up, it's a 28-day course,
28-day
and it's
course,
called,
The Return.
right. And what does the course entail? What are you going to be getting with the
So
course?
it's, like I said, it's very simple, but it's daily emails.
Okay.
So daily emails you'll receive from me, and all you need is anywhere from, you could space it out. I mean, you could time it out, but if you had 10 minutes, that's great. If you had 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. But it's really meant for the woman who is really busy, but knows it's time that things need to change, who's tired of fixing and
Mm-hmm.
forcing, who wants to reconnect with her. And that's why I'm naming it the return to your own self, the return to your own body.
Okay.
And I'll have different herb
Mm-hmm.
suggestions, plant ally suggestions. Of course, you can do journal prompts and things like that if you want to go deeper. but it is not supposed to be something that overwhelms you. That's the real thing. I mean, we've been so overwhelmed by all this stuff,
And
and
not something you have to cram into your schedule,
nothing
but
to
something that
cram
you
in.
get to make
Yeah, I
time
mean,
for,
Lindsay,
right?
if you see this, like I want you to be able to do this. My sister, because she has 2 young toddlers at home. She's doing an incredible job being a mother, but she lives in Brooklyn, New York, and in an apartment, and has a lot going on. And this is something that I feel like if you take the time to do this, you can just come back to center 10 minutes. She's already drinking our original formula
Mm-hmm.
tea. She loves that. She says that's like the best thing she's been doing for herself.
Awesome.
So the fact that she can take 10 minutes and do these coming home
Mm-hmm.
exercises, then yeah, and then pass them on to her girls.
And what about the tea that goes along with it? It's the return tea as well.
Yes, the return tea, and it's a beautiful blend. It has red raspberry leaf, which is really great for womb health. It's uterine lining tonic, linden, which is supportive for the nervous system, as well as oat straw. Those are really great.
Mm-hmm.
That's also great for nervous system and adrenal repair. We've all been operating in stress, stress physiology and overwhelm. So those are great right off the bat to really support on the everyday. And then I added shatavari root, which is an Ayurvedic herb that's really also supportive for hormones and balancing and vitality. Uh, Rose flowers, rose petals,
Mm-hmm.
which is really great for softening and opening the heart. A little lavender, which is also great for just kind of the nervous system. It's really beautiful for the senses. And then I added hibiscus and bitter orange. What was the last?
Peel, right?
Yeah, bitter orange peel. And that just kind of brightens it up and gives it a nice tone and flavor. And yeah, it's something I'm drinking now every day. And I was actually, can I share one more thing about
Yeah.
this? I was reflecting this morning as I'm producing this and this is coming out, that in 2019, I was in Mallorca, Spain with Guru Jagat at the time. She was producing her first festival. And I met this man, and he found me from across the room as we were doing this like incredible meditation. And he wanted to like read my chart. And I forget now his methodology, but he said something like, you need to be working, like you're a plant woman, you're a medicine woman.
Mm.
And I revered medicine type women, and like I've worked with Dr. Pratima Rashar, and I have an incredible acupuncturist who specializes in female wellness and health, and I I believe and love all that, but it was like me. And through these years, and really slowing down and really becoming more into this pharaoh lifestyle that we have, connected so much more with the plants and the herbs. And you've been a huge inspiration to me as well, because you have such a deep connection to it. And so the fact that now I'm creating this tea that I take for myself, I drink it, I want everyone I know to drink it because it's so supportive and nourishing and beautiful. And it works for every single day of your own
Mm-hmm.
moon cycle. It just feels like, kind of years in the making, but also, and probably lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and here we are. And I just feel so feral
Mm-hmm.
throughout it.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you for asking, babe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what you just said, like the fact that you developed this for yourself first, and then wanted to share it with the world. Basically, everything we're doing here at Feral Future is doing that. Everything that we're offering, um, products and services that we're offering, and advice and input and suggestions and communication and conversations are all based on things that we do ourselves every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the things that we feel is the most important and the most powerful are what we're doing first. Another thing that's well, let's before we close out on that, let's say someone wants to sign up for your course.
Oh,
What do they do?
so you sign up through our Feral Future website
Mhm.
that Erik is the mastermind behind. I mean, literally the fact that you like running back end IT of our website is amazing. But yes, Feral Future is that's
Yeah, fairfuture.com.
yes,
And at the top of the page, you click on courses.
courses.
Yeah, and we have two packages. One is the course by itself, and also the course plus the tea with a special price, the return tea. It's the return bundle, course
Yes.
and tea. Um, and like you said, the course will be available all the time. You recommend you start it on the new moon, but you're going to be launching June 25th,
Yes,
which
June
is the Cancer new
25th,
moon.
Cancer new moon. Cancer is ruled by the moon. It seemed like the most apropos time to start.
Mm-hmm.
And when this was all kind of coming through me and moving through me, the fact that this, and also it's Erik's birthday. And I should say that Erik and I are both Cancers.
Mm-hmm.
So we are extremely highly sensitive, intuitive souls. And I mean, the fact that we're talking about like archetypes today, and I couldn't imagine archetyping with anyone more fitting than you.
Awesome.
And not to say that it's easy. It's probably the
Yeah,
most
we have some archetypos now and then, right?
challenging work that I have ever done. I thought I had made it as a woman who was like super evolved and had dedicated my life to, you know, the greater picture, and then what is the universe, and how to live, you know, this all the secrets and natural law and all of that. And then I meet you, and it took my healing and understanding of self to a whole
Mm-hmm.
new level. So not
Well,
necessarily
you're welcome.
pretty or fun, but it does seem that when they say that relationship is the highest teacher,
Mm-hmm.
I would say for sure
Right.
that is for us.
Definitely. Well, thanks for sharing, and we hope you guys take a look at that and enjoy
Yes, I'm
that.
so excited. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be really fun. And like I said, I named it specifically The Return to Yourself, and I'm calling it an invitation. I want it to be light. I want it to work in your schedule. I want you to have it forever, and I want you to share it with people that you love, and give it to the little girl inside of you who never knew how her body worked, because I could cry about that for days. But let's definitely use what we've had and take all the stuff that we've experienced in our lives, and use it to create something spectacular for the rest of the time we're here in these incredible bodies.
Definitely. Yes, I agree. Also new on the site, we have added our Pharaoh Flame candles. We
Oh,
didn't go
yes.
with the fire today, but we wanted to show off the 100% beeswax candles that
Yes.
I make myself.
Yes.
So those are live on the website, and we've also just launched our full spectrum salt,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
sea salt, Himalayan pink salt. So it's a salt blend that should cover all of the sort of minerals and flavors and textures, and we recommend that for just your daily use salt, and you can also use it for um, specialty things as well, scrubs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's got all kinds of neat qualities. So a
Yeah.
bunch of new stuff going live on the site
I
at
know, how fun.
feralfuture.com.
I know. I was also reflecting when I was kind of having my Majorca moment, just about that everything that we do is everything that we are kind of living out that when you say it doesn't feel like work, because it's like, oh, we just do this.
Mm-hmm.
We just love this stuff. Like, we love it. And, to see you kind of like, I said to Erik this morning, I said, I really appreciate you and all your gifts. Like, he has so many gifts, and all of his gifts get contributed into doing what we do, and it just, you make it look so easy, because next thing you know, we have he's been using these, like, the salt blend for a while, and all of a sudden I leave him for a little bit, and he's created this like gorgeous label, and has sourced the best quality salts from around the globe and put this together, and it's so exciting to be a part of. It feels so natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, again, it's an extension of who we are. And I feel like, again, so connecting it to the archetypes, the more we do that type of, which we need to explain it, how the archetypes work, but the more we continue to do that, the more our gifts really start to shine,
Right.
and the more we get to create just beauty in the world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah. Well, so with that slightly elongated intro, let's dive into the idea of
Okay.
archetypes. And so, yeah, I kind of talked about it earlier, but archetypes, um, it's sort of like the idea of the basic character traits or storylines that we live out in our lives. And the most common version of that is the one that's kind of been provided by Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever. Um, and it really harkens back to the idea. The thing that connects the most with me is the Shakespearean quote, all the world is stage, and all the men and women play their parts. And the idea that we're all here on this grand stage, creating this experience, and sort of unbeknownst to us, we're actually pre-programmed or predispositioned or elected to carry out one specific storyline or arc. And it's like, before we incarnate here in this realm, whatever it is, whether it's a simulation, whether it's real, whether it's God's creation, whether it's evolution, whatever it is, before we come into whatever this version of existence is, it seems as though we either get to choose or have chosen for us some sort of character traits or storyline that we're supposed to live out. And a lot of people would say that's kind of like our destiny, and the idea of the struggles and the pain in life and the things like depression that happen are happening because we're not fully expressing that role that we're supposed to do while we're here. And then the question is, why do we have that role? And to me, it comes down to the idea of, karma or reincarnation, the idea that our souls come back here many, many times to fulfill different roles, to basically experience every trait separately that has to be done in this physical world where we feel pain and struggle and resistance and limitation, as well as, the highs and lows. You have to feel them all. And when you're not in a physical body, the idea of physical pain and physical limitations and overcoming challenges is very different when you be like an etheric or spiritual type being, where those things don't necessarily exist, and maybe things like time don't exist even. It's hard to say from our limited perspective here in this version of our experience. So yeah, the idea that we're here to fulfill all of these roles so that the soul itself, this higher soul that's here, can essentially up level to the point where it can move on to the next stage of existence, whether that's a dimensionality thing, whether like it's nirvana or heaven. Anyway, I think you get the idea.
Yeah, love
But
it.
yeah, so what are these different archetypes? We're not going to go over all of them. There's 12, and it's pretty easy to look up the
Well, there's
common
12
12
according to
to
Jung.
Young, right?
That's
The
yeah.
ones that we're referencing. But there's many more. But the idea that these stories get told time and time and time again throughout the ages with different characters and different variations on the theme, but it's just the same stories. And it's been told that there's only 12 stories, and we only ever have 12 stories, and they just keep getting rewritten. And there's only, if there are these 12 archetype ideas, and there's only like 12 character traits, and we're all performing them in a different way. If we can really sort of tap into that and understand what's going on and why, then perhaps that will help us to live a much more harmonious life. Maybe not initially, as we have to come to realization of where we are and what we're doing and what we're supposed to be doing, and sort of breaking out of that mold and shifting into this new experience. But even the idea of that itself is an archetype. It's called the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is the idea of um, this main character who has this certain way of understanding how life and the world works. And then something happens that completely shatters that illusion and forces them to completely sort of start over and reset and um, overcome lots of challenges, make all the changes they need to do to find themselves in a much better position than they started, with much more expansiveness and an idea of what's possible. Um, so yeah, the hero's journey is an archetype, kind of within an archetype, because I feel like to become aware of your archetype, especially if you're not aware of it, is a hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
So we all kind of have to go through the hero's journey to discover our archetype. So it's sort of the master archetype as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And it's very much in alignment with Beryl, because it's sort of like breaking out of the cage or leaving this predetermined and sort of accepted concept of how things are, and then being forced to step outside of your bubble and retake in everything that's around you, and reassess and kind of throw away all of your preconceived notions and look at everything with a new set of eyes, and what comes out of that. So, you have anything to share about that or comments on that?
No, I mean, I love it. I love this, talking about archetypes. It's archetypes for me are just also energy. I do love Jung and his take on archetypes, and I've been studying it. We'll do a little bit with that as well in the return course, because it's like embodying some of these archetypes, and really, again, how as I was sharing, even from as soon as we're brought into this space, we come in with ways of being, and so much of our aliveness and uniqueness gets turned down right from the
Mm-hmm.
start. When you go to, as early as preschool, you're not allowed to go to the bathroom unless you ask for permission. And there's certain
Yeah.
there's all these rules that are put on your body to do in a certain way, and make sure you act like Sally and Stacy. And that I definitely grew up feeling like I needed to perform and to be like other people, and that
Well, and you
made
also were sort of idolized certain people, where you're told like this is the type of person that your parents wanted you to become
right.
like, so they kind of put that in front of you, like you should go after this.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
feel like the thing that I wanted to share, yes, but the thing I wanted to share is that when you are told to, in any way, to be like someone you're not, your energy gets locked up.
Mm-hmm.
So we are holding, that's where all these gifts and beauty and uniqueness of oneself gets hidden. And one, it creates shame in our bodies, it creates guilt in our bodies, it creates low energy and fatigue. I mean, to me, the a beautiful thing about archetypal embodiment and understanding archetypes is really reclaiming back one's inner power and resource and vitality and strength. Because if you spend most of your years trying not to be who you truly are, and then you're operating at a very low percentage of on a battery meter,
Mm-hmm.
if we're operating as like energy and like voltage, you're operating a very small percentage. And so, trying on these different archetypes, and some of the archetypes are not necessarily, it's not about the hero's journey. Some
Right.
of them are like embracing your inner Medusa, your inner Kali, these really, these that could dark energies, and
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, we all have them, and to pretend that we don't is again locking up energy. So
Or to
to
be ashamed that we
or to
feel
be
them,
ashamed,
exactly, yeah,
right?
or
So
afraid to even look
exactly,
at them.
to afraid to, and that's, yeah, and I mean, and that is one of the things that I have been doing, as one of my practices, is being able to, Jung says it's like bringing the darkness to light. Like that's like the true form of evolution. So you have to see these things, these dark things within you, and turn them into light, or it's like turning lead into gold.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's all these different ways to kind of get there, and that's like the beauty of healing and learning and spirituality, and is that you get to uncover all of this stuff, relationships, all of these things are, they're mirrors, they're reflections. And yeah, so archetypes are for me just energy, and there's so many different ways to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And I love talking about it.
So one of the things I wanted to do, we talked about how these archetypal stories get kind of carried through time, and so I wanted to just give some examples,
Yeah.
just to kind of get a sense of like how we see this in the real world. So one of the oldest ones goes back to like Gilgamesh, which is like Sumerian first oldest text that we have, talk about this hero's journey of this Gilgamesh character who has to, you know, um, overcome struggles of a difficult childhood to then like, fight dragons, but then in the end he like gets the maiden and becomes a king or something like that. So there's these sort of like, rags to riches stories, but then we also have things um, that are more modern, like you think of like the Marvel movies or like Spider-Man or Batman, or they have these variations of the same kind of um, you know storyline components that are consistent throughout them. And then there's other ones like the Jester, which is, you have like in the Norse myths you have Loki, and then in Batman you have the Joker. It's the same character, this trickster energy that's injecting chaos into the world, not necessarily um, I mean, there's like it's portrayed as evil, but there's also this thing of like, without it, how mundane and boring would life be if there wasn't this, like, oh my god,
Right.
this chaotic quality. Like the chaos of life is almost like what makes life worth living and
Right.
interesting. If it was totally predictable and comfortable and nice, it would just be boring. And so the challenges that come up through life really are part of that sort of trickster energy. And the idea of like the class clown, like we all know that the story, it's a character type of the class clown, and this one or a group of students that just can't help themselves but you know raise havoc and be defiant and be willing to take the punishment. And we almost are happy to have them because they get to be a release for some of that energy that we have of the things that we wish we could say. They get to say it on our behalf. And then even to the idea of, when you get into kings and their courts, only the jester was allowed to make fun of the king. But he had to be very careful about how he did that. But he could say things that nobody else was allowed to say, but done with the right humor and the right packaging. It sort of alleviated a lot of these tensions and frustrations that the people might otherwise have. The jester is allowed to say them and sort of take the pressure off of release the valve on the pressure cooker and let some of that steam out, so that, okay, the thing that needs to be said has been said. Everybody was there. They all heard it. We all laughed and got some energy out, and hopefully that will help to move things forward. So um, it's hard to paint things as good or bad because I think they're all necessary.
Yeah.
And out of balance, it causes problems. But that's sort of, again, the human experience is to sort of ride that pendulum of, this is too much in this direction, too much of that direction, and but then as it swings the other way, we find this really nice ground of like, this is how things actually can work. Some of the other ones are healers, for example. The healer, there's like Mary Magdalene to Jesus, and Mother Teresa, and yeah, there's just so many. You've got the wizard, which is like Merlin. You've got Dumbledore and Harry Potter. And then there's like the sage of like this wise elder like Morpheus or Yoda. Like there's amazing like how these stories continue to come over time, and through the interactions that we have with these character types, the lessons that we learn and how it brings us up. But in a lot of cases, like many things, it's kind of been hijacked. And
Right.
part of the things that we're referencing all these movies and stories and books, and in a lot of cases those actually take away our own personal drive to find our archetypal story, or perhaps we have multiple archetypal arcs that we could live in a lifetime. But the idea that if we're watching movies and seeing these archetypal stories and watching these things happen, there's a part of our subconscious that gets the satisfaction of like, the journey has been completed, we've done the thing. But since we haven't done it ourselves, we haven't personally gone through that initiation ritual or rite of passage. um, it's like a false sense of fulfillment, and leaves us actually feeling empty, knowing that like it's showing us the way, but yet we have to go to work on Monday, and we have to, you know, pay the bills and all the things that come up in our lives that prevent us, that keep us into this sort of controlled life, as opposed to leaving it all behind and going after
Right.
this ultimate calling that we came here to do.
Yeah. Well, I like when, we say as above, so below. So, in when you're looking at these movies, it's just like a representation of oneself. And, also a lot of times people come to wanting to understand more about things like the archetypes when things get really shitty, when life gets,
Mhm.
you are depressed, you're broke, your health sucks, your friendships, like you have to it has to become an inside job. And it's not about some outside force coming in to save or fix you, or someone on the movie screen giving you a false sense of satisfaction, or a doctor giving you some type of prescription. It's like, it's something we talk about in the house too. It's like taking, responsibility for your life from 100% of it,
Mhm.
and working with archetypes is a way that you can really start to reclaim that, again, that power, and to reclaim that complete responsibility for yourself and your existence. If your life sucks, if you're broke, if you don't feel well, if your relationships suck, that's all you.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one to blame for
Especially if
that.
it's a cycle. If the same pattern in your life keeps repeating over and over again, it's basically telling you very loudly, um, these are the things that you need to
Right,
overcome,
right,
and what you're doing is
absolutely.
not. If the efforts that you've been making have not made those changes, then they're not the right efforts.
Right,
So it's
absolutely.
going to keep putting these challenges in front of you until you realize that, oh, I need to change the way I'm looking at all of this. And
Exactly.
yeah, so
Yeah, and that's where the beauty of archetypes can really come into play, because you can take that, you can start to see like where you're causing your own suffering,
mhm,
and utilize those energies to get more familiar with yourself and
mhm,
what it is that's causing that internal pain. So yeah, that's an incredible and empowering way to, one, take your life force back, take your vitality back, and know that you are the creator. Here we are creating our existence and our reality, and
mhm,
that's, to me, such a strong element of working with archetypes.
mhm. Yeah, and one of the things that can really help to activate or accelerate the need to figure this out is something like a midlife crisis.
Hmm.
And in uh, the podcast that's going to be posted after this, it's already been completed. We go into a lot of that, where the midlife crisis really is the turning point where you go from I've lived my life following all the rules and doing everything I've been told to do, and I'm not getting out of it what I wanted. And it forces there's like a transformation where it's like things have to change or I will literally die. And in a lot of ways, it is a rebirth if it's done correctly. I mean, a lot of people go the route of gambling or buying a fancy car or getting a divorce or
Numbing
whatever,
out and drinking and
right? And just going into complete destruction, and that usually leads down that road. But it's also an opportunity to sort of phoenix from the ashes and rebirth and really take into account all the things that are going on in life. And unfortunately, it almost seems like it's the human condition where you have to go through that process to get the trigger to awaken in that way to say, oh, I need to take control of my life. So in very many ways, like the way that the society is created and the way that these things are put down on us and the traumas that we're exposed to are almost there by design to
Mhm.
help activate this awakening to then find your purpose and
Totally,
then fulfill your destiny. So
totally.
it's easy to like be mad at the system, and
Right.
but again, like we're saying with the trickster energy or whatever, like
Yeah.
that energy needs to be there, or else we would never have the motivation and
Completely.
drive to get to
Yeah.
the place where we realize we need to make
Yeah.
the change. So
Right. And even going back to what you were saying about good and bad, like what is good and what's bad? Like it's
mhm,
all necessary,
right,
all of that stuff. And if how empowering and exciting when you say all of that's created by design to help you move into your destiny.
right,
What a boring life we'd have if we knew right from the start, like who we are and what we were meant to be.
right.
And we had all the money in the world to do whatever we wanted right from the start and not have to learn these lessons. Because
Yeah, if by 25 you had fulfilled your destiny, what are you going
yeah,
to do with the rest of your
what are you
existence?
going to do? Like, yeah, I mean, Eric and I are two testaments of people who've been doing the work individually, coming together in partnership to with the intention of literally living extraordinarily and living to the fullest and optimizing our gifts, and learning so much about each other and through our relating and our experiencing. And so, yeah, so to me, when you say it's all created all by design, I mean, I love hearing you say that. I believe that in my bones. And I hope that everyone watching also believes that they're here to live extraordinary and take all those opportunities that feel like they've been challenged and turn them into the goal that they're
Right.
supposed to be.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like we think of hot or cold, right, as these different versions, but in reality, it's just a spectrum on a graph of temperature, right? It's all temperature. It's just higher temperature, lower temperature, whatever. And to think that good and bad can be like, where does it switch from good to
Right.
bad? Like, no, it's a spectrum of um, an impression of an event, and we use these words as languages that we have to sort of express them in a certain way, and judge and tally. But when you look at it from, a step back as, again, like a archetypal storyline,
Sure.
if it's just dancing through the flowers every day and having wonderful meals, and like that would be a pretty boring, like it
Right.
would be really nice for the first 10 or 15 minutes, but it's
Yeah.
like, what's this movie about?
Yeah.
There's no drama, there's no challenges, like
Exactly.
what is this?
Yeah.
I don't want to
There's
eat.
no triumph.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
just ends and they like have a great day, and
Yeah.
you're just like, okay, I
Yeah.
don't really know what I got out of that. But
Yeah.
but it's always the challenge, it's the drama, it's the overcoming, it's and so yeah, if we could look at our own lives as a movie, which, as we started this discussion, all the world's a stage and they're all playing our parts. This is a giant movie,
Yeah.
and we are all playing out these roles, and the things that come up in our lives that provide us challenges and difficulties, or triumphs, and the highest highs and the lowest lows. That's the storyline that makes it interesting. And there's another way of looking at it, and I definitely apply it to the news. But it's like the outcome will always be the most entertaining from those who are not directly involved with it.
Right.
So if you can like take a step back from what's going on the world stage or even in your own life and look at it as though it's a storyline, if somebody else on the outside was watching and you were the main character, and they're watching you going through your trials and tribulations with the knowing that, like, wow, they're really going to get something out of this and feel it, or they're not going to be able to do it and it's going to end in misery. Like either way, the viewer comes away with a deep impact
Right.
on being a third party perspective
Right.
of that experience. So yeah, it's hard to do it when you're in the moment, but if you can kind of pull yourself out and think of it like, oh, I'm in a movie and this is the script and the storyline, and I'm here to either overcome or completely wither and fail. It's okay. That's the story, and somebody out there is watching it and appreciates what's going on and is happy that it's happening.
Yeah.
So with that, as I mentioned before, we do have some additional episodes coming out. It's going to be myself, at least for now, with some special guests that are going to cover some topics that we do talk about, but maybe in a deeper way, a more specific way. But we're trying to figure out how to align it with the podcast to make it make sense. And so, with these two other podcasts that I've recorded with guests, it in the lens of the archetype, it really started to make sense. And I think we're going to start exploring more and more. We'll call it our archetype series,
Right.
where we talk to some different people about some different things on a deep level with an expert, and hope to get you guys a sense of some different ideas that are out there, some different ways of doing things, more information about topics that you might be interested in or haven't heard of and could be influenced. So more guests are coming, but yeah, archetype series.
Right. That's really the framework of what we wanted
Right.
to set up for today. And Dan was such an inspiration to you, kind
Mm-hmm.
of, right? It's just as a mentor and teacher, but then also in terms of supporting this whole idea of the archetypes and how we kind of lay out
It was sort
some
of
of the
it sort
episodes.
of created itself, given that
Yeah.
he has a program called the Hero's Journey, and
Right.
it's archetypal, and through going through the work I've done with him and just sort of the understanding of that concept, and once we got into archetypes, and it was like, oh yeah, the hero's journey is almost necessary to move forward in life and realize the archetypal line that you're here to fulfill.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty cool bit of synchronicity. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Carl Jung because we talked about him. That line, the privilege of a lifetime is to learn who you truly are.
Amazing.
So, and archetypes are a great way to
Yeah.
find that out.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for future episodes. They'll be dropping pretty soon. Definitely take a look at Keri's new course, her invitation to the return, and her new tea.
Thank you, babe.
As well as our candles and our salt and all the other fine goods and products that we offer at feralfuture.com.
So exciting. We're doing such good stuff.
Yes. And until next time.
I love it. Until next time.
The future
is feral. Thank you, guys.